show from the Kraken Community Iceplex. Everett Fitzhugh, good friend.
Hi, Mom.
Of CSS Kraken Audio Network.
Yep.
Everett, we're here today at the Iceplex as training camp's going on.
We are, yeah.
To do our part of this whole CSS Kraken season preview. First of all, I know a lot of folks have already talked about it. You've talked about it with our friend Mike Benton.
Yeah.
About the moves made this offseason. Just first of all, generally your thoughts, Mason Marchment, Ryan Lindgren. Matt Murray's not out here yet. I imagine he's playing tonight in Vancouver. But I don't know, just your thoughts on the offseason, the moves that the NHL team made.
I thought that they were good moves. The big question going into the offseason was, are they going to address the offensive side of the puck? And while I do think that maybe there could have been a bigger move made there, I do like adding Marchment and Lindgren and Gaudreau, because you add some sandpaper to that lineup. You add a couple of guys in Marchment who's not afraid to go to the net. He's not afraid to mix things up. I mean, he provides a little bit of that spark I think this team's been missing. Ryan Lindgren, you talk to him, he's all business, right? He means business. He's a tough, solid defensive defenseman. Freddie Gaudreau, I loved his comments. I think it was last week on the first days of camp. We all interviewed him, and he said that he loves that up and down part of being in the lineup. He's on the third line today, second line tomorrow. He could be a fourth line guy. He loves that uncertainty. He loves that ability that he has to be a floater, and I think that's going to really benefit this team down the road.
I like that you bring up Gaudreau, because I didn't forget that part. But I thought one of the big things, at least when they first signed here, was with Gaudreau and Lindgren. Hear about how they're locker room guys, right? They're culture guys, and obviously, as you know very well, most of this leadership group has been here since day one, right? But also, I don't think it's I don't know if out of pocket's the right way to put it, but things haven't gone the way they've wanted for three out of the 4 years. Right? And so maybe you do want to start building towards a different culture or something like that, because eventually the expansion draft era will be out the window. We're already starting to move that way. Just, I don't know, how big do you think that can be for guys like Gaudreau, Lindgren, to kind of start, guys who have been in the playoffs, know what that's like, been on winning teams, to set a new foundation, set a new culture, bring something different.
I think it's big. And listen, this isn't me trying to push. I'm not saying that McCann and Eberle and Schwartz and all those guys, that core, we're not saying that they're not good. Obviously, they're still good. Obviously, they're still good leaders. But I think we're now going into that second chapter of Kraken hockey, right? You're seeing a lot more of the draft picks that this team has made come in. You look at Brandon Montour, Chandler Stevenson. Those guys are now wanting to have a bigger voice in that locker room. You're right. It's a fact. At a certain point, that expansion era, that expansion draft roster, they're going to move on, retire, other teams, whatever. And now you need you're going to have a different core. You're going to have different leaders. And I think when you bring in the Gaudreaus of the world, you bring in the Montours and the Stevensons, and you have guys who potentially could be here for quite some time, learning from Eberle and Schwartz and McCann and Alexiak and Larson and all those guys who've been here since day one. I think it makes that transition, the inevitable transition, a little bit easier. And I think it helps establish, I think, some solid foundational principles that, hey, we started X with these guys, and now we're going to roll this on to the newcomers coming in.
Yeah, no, that's great, especially when you talk about with the different defensemen. I was talking to Ty Nelson a few days ago, and I asked him, I was like, I don't know, who do you gravitate towards during these camps that he's been in? And he mentioned those guys and how they're always checking in on him, seeing what he wants, seeing what he needs.
Well, and again, too, you look at in the position of on the defensive side, Dunn's won a cup. Alexiak's been to a cup. Up front, Montour's won a cup. Has been to back-to-back finals. So there's a lot of people on that blue line that you can lean on. Lindgren has played in, the media craziness that is New York City. You know what I mean? And he's had to deal with all the expectations, and he's I thought has had a really good career through all of that. So there are a lot of really good players offensively, defensively on this team off the ice that a lot of these young guys can learn from and look at.
Yeah, no, well, you talk about kind of instilling the foundational principles, and I think what you said, to reference our Seattle Mariners.
Oh, of course.
54%? And obviously,
are we past that?
They have to.
Hey, congrats, Mariners! 24 years, y'all deserve it. This city deserves it. Congratulations, well done. By the way, I loved watching you celebrate. And there
you celebrate.
You still smell like Coors Light and cigars. So,
lanyard?
Oh, that smells like victory. That lanyard smells like victory.
Yeah. But no, one of the things Dan Wilson's talked about is the whole organization seems to be in sync.
Yeah.
With how they're developing, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's what I think we talk about foundational principles that runs throughout the organization.
Yeah.
One last piece on the offseason. How big was it to get Kaapo Kakko back? I know it's kind of like a bridge deal, right? Because it sets him up to get another payday in 3 or 4 years.
Yep.
But you just saw how well he fit in here. He gave the Kraken something they really haven't had, right? With a forward size, which, not to downplay the forwards here, but again, they're not exactly the biggest guys. How well Matty Beniers' offense seemed to take off after he came here. Obviously you talk about Ryan Lindgren and where he's coming from with the media. Obviously it's a change here with him and Kaapo. Just how big was it, to get him here and lock him up for a few more years?
It was massive because, listen, it didn't work out for Kakko in New York, but he's a first-round pick. He's a first-round draft pick. And you got him for, I'm not going to say nothing because Will Borgen was a fantastic player, but you got him for a very, very, what I would say a low price, right?
Yep.
And then you sign him to a very team-friendly deal. You're right, it's only 4 years. But what he did in that, 45-game, 50-game sample size, I saw enough to know that he's going to be a leader and an anchor in that top six for minimally the next 4 years. But I think if he continues to produce, if he gets back to the Kaapo Kakko that the Rangers drafted and gets back to that player, this is going to be a foundational player. You're going to put Kaapo Kakko in the same conversation of a Shane Wright, of a Matty Beniers.
Yeah, he's still,
you know what I mean?
24,
yeah. So he's still young. So I do think that the ceiling for him is so high, and he likes playing here. It's fun listening to him and Tolvanen and Koko and Newman speak Finnish together. And, I think we're the Dallas Stars because Dallas, they've got all of half of Team Finland plays for Dallas and the other half's in Florida. And then we got a few guys up here. So, got a pockets of Finns.
The different Finn hubs.
He's fitting in here with the team. The guys love him. He plays well. You're hoping that his injury isn't too bad. He got slashed on the wrist the other day. So we'll wait and see what coaches say. Hopefully, again, if he is out, it's day to day, and nothing more than that. But I think it was so important. That was the biggest piece. That was the biggest roster priority for me this past summer, was getting him to an extension. And if I can go a little further, I look at a guy like Mason Marchment, who's going into his last year of his contract.
Yeah.
I could see Mason Marchment being in that same situation. He comes here, he puts up good numbers, he likes being here. I could see the priority next season going to, hey, we got to get Marchment lined up, in addition to also signing Connor McDavid.
Oh, yeah. not making a move for off?
Hey, listen. You want to get a generational talent? You want to get a bona fide, unquestioned top line centerman in this? It's going to cost you.
There it is.
There he is. Right.
It'll be your no, for sure.
And he turned down the 8 by whatever. So from the Wild that gave him that contract. So maybe it's a matter of no deal's going to get it done. Maybe he doesn't want to be in Minnesota. Maybe he wants to be somewhere else, or maybe he wants shorter term. You're starting to see a lot of these NHL guys go the NBA route. Like, rather than going 8 by 8, I'll go 4 by 8. You can still pay me $8 million.
All the money. I don't necessarily want.
It used to be, I want the term. I want to build a house and unpack all my boxes, but now these guys are trying to maximize their earning potential. They're trying to maximize their revenue over the course of, what averages out to be a 5 to 7 year career.
Yeah.
And they want to make as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's fair. To go to camp here, all these early mornings here at the Iceplex, I know it feels maybe like, gritting and grinding a little bit until we get to the actual games, but, at least for you, top takeaways from camp. Obviously, so much attention on Berkeley Cat.
Yeah.
We've seen some of the new guys, like you mentioned, with Marchman and Lindgren, and Matt Murray is an NHL level goaltender here, again, probably playing tonight. I will ask you about the goalies in a minute.
For sure.
I don't know, what sticks out to you at camp? Again, we've seen so much of it. Feels like we've just been drilled into our heads, but I don't know, who sticks out? What stuck out to you? I'm sure we'll talk about Lane Lambert, because it does feel different.
I was going to say, that's where it starts for me, is Lane, the coaching. The attention to detail. I call it the GAS meter, the give a bleep meter.
Oh, yeah.
The gas meter is high with him. Last week in practice, they were running drills, and he was blowing the play dead because they started offside. Or, you lost the puck. Rather than going to get that puck that's next to you, no, there's one puck in the game. Go get the pass that you missed and keep on going. So that accountability is there. That attention to detail is there. That structure is there, and I can tell the guys are really responding to it. I also think that this is a big camp for me for a lot of those early second and third round picks. Your Goyets, your Carson Raykops, your Nelsons, your Jagger Ferguses, right? Like, those are the guys that you're looking to be pieces on this NHL lineup. And I think, by and large, for the most part, I've been impressed by a lot of the kids. I thought Morrison had a really good game, and Edmondson the other night. Winterton looks really good as well in that game. Tyson Jugnoth, he had one of the best games, I thought, of preseason. So I've been very surprised, and not in a bad way, pleasantly surprised at the growth and the maturation and the development of a lot of these mid-round, second, third, fourth round guys that are now graduating junior hockey. They spent last year in the American League. All right, let's see what you can do now. For the most part, I've really liked watching those guys develop.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because, what was it? It was after the inaugural season sell-off. You get all these picks. Last year with Yanni and Oliver Bjorkstrand and Brandon Tanev going out.
You now have 2 more first-round picks because of that.
Yep, you get the other picks, and it's just like, I know you've heard it the last few years. The Kraken have all these picks. Or they've got this prospect pool that's interesting. That isn't as big as some of the other prospect pools, of course, but, And some of those guys like Raykop, who dominate the OHL, Jagger Fergus, who is so big in the WHL. It's like, what's the next step? Who knows? We saw it last season. Anything can happen with call-ups. Right? I don't know if I expected to see Yanni Newman.
No.
In the beginning of the year.
I didn't either.
Right?
But you know what? That opens up the door this year for a Ty Nelson. I thought he looks really good. Tyson Jugnoth, depending on what happens with him. Who I thought has been a really good dark horse this camp, and he might not be the flashiest guy, but Oscar Molgar.
Yes.
His last couple of games have been very strong. And he, I would put him in that top 5 for first call-ups of the season. Just, if he continues, it wouldn't surprise me. Just the way that he's approached this camp, his drills, his practices, the games that he's played, I thought Molgard looked really good so far.
He does seem like a guy who, I don't know, because guys can evolve, right, and can take jumps, but he does seem like a guy who could easily be a guy that fits in the middle, the bottom 6, at an NHL level for a good chunk of years.
Well, and we
seems very stout.
We talk about Gaudreau, right? Freddie Gaudreau, he's made a habit and a living of being a very malleable player, right? You want me on your 4th line? Great. You want me on your 2nd line? All right, sounds good. Sick, can't wait. You know what I mean? Like, those type of players, I think, are so important and so valuable to an organization.
Yeah, no. That's a great shout, because he's a guy that we've even had some people. I understand, it was the back-to-back, but someone was like, I don't see Molgaard in the lineup. I really want to see him. I was like, I'm sure he'll play tomorrow, which he did. But yeah, it's a good point. With Lane, to go back to that, maybe a couple times with Hack. Yeah. I don't know if we had seen that, though, to this level where, what did he say the other day? He was encouraging, not yelling. Yeah. Just the intensity's up every day. Yeah. It just does seem like they're going to set a strong foundation. So many times we've talked to guys in the scrum, or Lane's talked about it, where it's, it's the hardest training camp, or they're really pushing them. So.
Well, and listen, too, I think for a lot of people are already writing the Kraken off. Yeah. And, I don't think this team is going to be as poor as everyone says this team's going to be. And honestly, I think a lot can go in the Kraken's favor. You have a very condensed schedule. Yep. We're already seeing teams going down with injuries. Seattle also has got some injuries as well. But I remember in the last year of the Dave Hackstall era, there were a lot of times when, the Kraken didn't score as many goals as they would have liked. But you always heard, man, you knew you played the Kraken tonight. This team's going to outwork you.
I think Gaudreau said that.
He said you knew you were going to be in one when you played the Kraken. And I think that's going to be a huge piece for this team. If Seattle can play that type of hard, grinding hockey, I say it on the air all the time, it doesn't have to be sexy. You only have to win by one. And if this team can be comfortable being a 3-2 hockey team, a 2-1, you don't need to be a 5-4 team. You don't need to be a 4-3 team. You'd like to be. You'd like to score more goals. But if you can consistently win games, 2-1, 2-0, 3-2, 4-3, 4-2 with an empty net, right? Yeah. If you can keep those games and you can win the defensive battle and you can win the hustle and compete battle, this team's going to win more games than a lot of people have given them credit for.
Yeah, no, that's great. I was going to ask you exactly that. It was like, do you think that Lane's defensive structure, seeing what Joey Decour does, if he's able to have anything resembling what he did last year, and it just, I don't know, it seems like you've got too many quality defensemen on your NHL roster to be as bad as they were defensively.
The personnel was never the problem. Yeah. The defensive personnel wasn't the issue. I think it was just that team defensive commitment. And listen, for whatever reason, who knows? Obviously the Kraken made a coaching change, and I'm not going to sit here and put all of this squarely on the shoulders of Dan Bilesma. That wouldn't be fair. I mean, because at the end of the day, there's 23 guys out there playing, and the coach can only do so much. So, but whatever it was, right? The personnel was never the issue, and I think now you've got the personnel coupled with a defensive-minded coach. This is going to be a top 12 defensive team in the league. And you look at 2 years ago, last year, Dave Hackstall, the Seattle Kraken were the only team in the top 10 in defense. They were 9th in goals against. The only team in the top 10 in defense to not make the playoffs, with essentially the same personnel. And now you've added Montour, you've added Lindgren. You've only gotten better.
Yeah. That was a good point. I remember that season. It was so often. It was like you didn't give up a lot, but you also didn't score as much.
You didn't get a lot either.
So, yeah, goodness. So I guess for you, last few ones for you. Yeah. What are you looking forward to most with this team? We've kind of touched on it with the defense. You want to see things change. You've mentioned some of the potential call-ups. What are you hoping to see, from our vantage point up on the bridge this upcoming season with this team?
I think two things. Number one, they have to have a good start. You can't stumble out the gate. You got 2 at home, and then you're going to Eastern Canada for 6, and you pick up Winnipeg on the way back, right? You got a 12-day road trip right off the back. Sorry, Shell, I love you. I gotta tell my wife and my son sorry in advance. But no, this team has to come back from that 6-game road trip. Your first 8 games of the year, you can't be 4-4, 5-3. 5, 2-2, whatever it is, right? Whatever, right? You have to come back and you have to play well. So I think a strong start's good, but also too, I think leaning into that team structure, defensive philosophy. It's going to be a grind of the season. You got 14 back-to-backs. Can the Kraken win some of those back-to-backs this year? 0-11 last year. They got to turn that around. But it's going to be a grind of the season. Staying healthy, that's going to be huge. We've already seen Stevenson, Marchment, McCann, now Capo.
Montour's got the
Versa. Someone else, I'm sure, has got the sniffles back there. Like, you're already starting to see some guys go down. You're seeing around the NHL other guys, look at Zach Hyman is out till November in Edmonton. Tkachuk and now Barkov are out for the defending Cup champions until, Tkachuk's out till December. Barkov may be out the whole year. So you're already starting to see guys dropping like flies, and it's only going to get worse as these games start to mean more and to mean something.
Especially with this schedule.
Especially being a West Coast team. The schedule's already a bear as it is. I think we're going to see a lot more optional practices. We're going to see a lot more maintenance days, a lot more days off because you need it, right? So just because, I'll pick a player, just because Jared McCann doesn't practice today doesn't mean he's hurt. But hey, the Kraken have got 5 games in the next 8 days. I can't have Jared McCann skating in practice every other day. So just watch out for those kind of things. Health is going to be big for this team this year.
Well, and that brings up the call-ups too. Guys, there will probably be a good likelihood that guys are going to get that shot to be
I think we're going to see some debuts this year. I think there's going to be some guys who get some rookie laps. You see the Calgary Hitmen to the Western Hockey League last week. They were in Lethbridge.
They had
and they had a 14-player rookie lap. They had a 14-player rookie lap.
Crazy.
So that was awesome.
It basically had a whole skate.
Exactly. Optional practice.
My last two for you, the goalies. I mentioned we talk about the goalies. We just talked about the condensed schedule. They've mentioned it. I think Bott's talked about it. General manager Jason Bottrell, head coach Lane Lambert's talked about it. We've asked the different goalies about it. I think everyone except for Joey. But I don't know. Do you think the 3 goalies can work? I know Philly kind of did it last year. It's different because those guys were younger. I don't know. Just what do you think about it? Because we know, I know folks around here want to see Philip Grubauer bounce back. You do have Colin Giulianello here who worked with him down in Coachella Valley.
And he raved about, by the way. Loved him. Joey worked with him in Coachella. Loved him as well.
What does Joey's year look like, right? How does he, follow up last season? How much do you want to push him, right? Because you don't know. Maybe if the USA has an injury or something, maybe he goes.
It's him and Swayman for that number 3 spot.
Right.
So.
And then with Matt Murray, this is a guy who says he's healthy, says he's good to go. I don't know. What do you just whether it's the 3 goalies, potential of having that on the roster, or just the goalie situation in general?
This would be a great question for John. Because he's been around for so long.
I am hoping to get him on.
I'm curious to get his thoughts on this. I think we've seen the 3 goalies in the past. It's so difficult because you only have 2 nets in practice. You got 1 net in a game, right? It's so hard for goalies to get reps in practice. It's so hard to simulate game action, game shots in practice. That being said, I think we're going to need all 3 goalies this year. Joey's your number 1. I have a feeling, and I've gotten no direction on this. I've got no inside knowledge, inside baseball on this, if you will, but I don't know I don't think they signed Matt Murray to stash him down in Coachella Valley.
Hang out in Coachella Valley.
I think you're going to see.
That's fair.
I think you're going to see 3 to start. Maybe when you come back from that long road trip out east, maybe you give first 10 games of the year, first 12 games of the year, you get each player 4 games, right? And then you go from there.
Assess from there, see how it all plays out.
But Joey's your number 1. I think defensively, like we talked about, if he's got a good structure in front of him, if he's got a good group in front of him, I think Joey, who was statistically a top 5 goaltender last year in just about every category but wins, you know what I mean? Or I guess win-loss record. I think Joey, he loves the challenge. He wants to play every day. If he could, and he'll tell you, if he could, he'd play all 82, right? So I don't worry about Joey, but I do think the defense's job in front of him, the defense in front of him, that's going to be their main job, is to make life a little bit easier on him, give him a few more plays off, maybe cut down his shots 2 to 4, 2 to 5 a game.
Yeah.
Because those pile up a little bit over the course
they build
of
up,
the 2
yeah,
schedule.
for sure.
So, but no, I the goaltending schedule, I don't envy Lane and Ron and Bots and whoever's pulling those strings and whoever's going to make that decision. I don't envy those guys because either way, you know, if you do send someone down, you're sending down a really good goalie, or if you're keeping 3, a really good goalie isn't getting the time and the work that they would like and frankly that they probably need.
Yeah, and a separate thing, you know, maybe we can talk about this another day, but, you know, in Coachella Valley, Nikkei Coco has looked, when we got to see him, looked more than ready. Yeah. So I imagine he'll build up the entire year in the AHL. Yeah. Victor Ostman hasn't looked bad.
Looked really good. I thought he was very good,
those two could be up-and-comers, and, you know, if Murray's up here, those two could hang out, the 2 young goalies of the Kraken future in Coachella Valley.
And Coco is the goalie of the future, right? And it's, you know, you look at a lot of teams. I look at Shesterkin with the Rangers. I look at Vasilevsky with the Lightning, right? Ottinger, Hellebuck in Dallas and Winnipeg. You look at these teams that have franchise generational goalies, and I think the Kraken drafted Coco in hopes that he had a really good year over in Finland when he played over there, and now he's learning that North American style of play. He's still very young as well, but you're hoping that Nikkei Coco, you know, once the Joey contract is up and you can, you know, maybe you re-sign Joey, you know, you got 4 years to decide that, or maybe for whatever reason, you know, you hand off the reins eventually. But I do think that Coco, they're very high on him, and Ostman, I think, has looked really good in the little bit of a sample size that we've gotten of him.
It's fun to have those two because, I mean, in the early few years with the prospects, you're like, all right, who's it going to be? Anyway, I know we've been going a little longer than I thought we would. This one's a personal one for you. This is year 5 of Everett Fitzhugh
Year 5
in this job.
Yes.
I remember meeting you before the first season, and, you know, it's like, oh, I know who this guy is, and, you know, Everett and I are good buddies. We give each other. It's my show. I can say what I want. We give each other shit here and there
all the time.
I don't know. What is it like? Seattle's been a different place than where you've been before. Just what does year 5 mean to Everett Fitzhugh now?
You know, it's still hard for me, number one, to believe that I'm in the NHL and I get to do this for my job. You know, this is my dream. Ever since I was a 17-year-old freshman at Bowling Green State University. State University. This is my dream to get to the NHL. So to do it here, to do it with an expansion franchise, to do it in a market that has never had pro hockey at this high of a level. You know, I grew up in Detroit. I remember the late 90s Stanley Cup runs the Red Wings went on. And the same intensity and passion that I saw from the fan base in Detroit, you see here in Seattle. It's been so much fun watching our community and watching our fans go from, hey, let's go to a Kraken game because it's new. Let's go to a Kraken game because they redid the Coliseum and now the arena looks great. They've gone from that to, hey, this Matty Beniers kid is really, really good. This Shane Wright kid is really, really good. Man, we love Grubauer. You're now seeing the casual sports fans become diehard sports fans. They're holding the organization accountable, which is great. You want to see that, right?
It's passion.
Look at the passion the Mariners fans have, right? Like, we're not there yet, and I think sometimes, thankfully, because sometimes I feel like Mariners fans are going to mutiny at some point, but, you know, they keep on coming back. So they're doing something right over there. But no, the fans have been great. For me personally, I mean, I work with such a great group of people. You know, I worked with Dave Tomlinson my first 2 years. Now Al and these last 2, and now this one. Mike Benton, you know, one of the hardest working person I think I've ever met. And then just everybody here makes this place so fun to work. And I think to me, one of the most important people that I've met, and I owe a lot to this guy. His name is Shar. And he is a young Seattle kid.
Who is this?
16, 17 years old. Big baseball fan. Went to O'Day. And he's so passionate about what he does. And he loves everything.
Who are we talking about?
Shar.
Who? I don't know who that is.
You. Shar. Chuck E. Cheese. No. But no, it's been great, man. And this has been the best 5 years of my life. I've met so many great people. I get to live out my dream.
You're raising a son.
I'm raising a son out here. My wife, my son, we're happy. We finally unpacked boxes. After this year, this will be the longest time I've ever lived in one city.
Wow.
Yeah, outside of Detroit growing up.
Yeah.
I was in Chicago for a year and a half. I was in Youngstown for a year. I was in Cincy for 5. So now I'm going on year 6, season 5 here in Seattle. So this is home for me. And I could not be happier. I could not be more grateful to the organization, to the city, to the fans, the folks who listen and support us every day. It's been awesome. It's been so great. And to Charles.